fair or not, voters seem ready to hold Democrats responsible for these rising prices. I know you have a different take on this. Is there anything the administration should be considering at this point? Are there policies that could alleviate what we're seeing out there?
Well, there's no simple answer, obviously, Jim. I mean, inflation is terrible. It is almost out of control. It's a worldwide phenomenon. I think that's very important for people to understand. It's not just in the United States. In fact, in the United States, inflation rates are actually lower than they are at most other places around the world. But it is important to recognize that a big part of this inflation is not just a lot of demand and not enough supply, but a big part of it has to do with corporations, huge profits that they have been making, and they are still pushing consumers to pay more. They're raising their prices when they don't have to raise their prices. I think that what the administration needs to do is, number one, much more vigorous, bolder antitrust enforcement, because the only reason these big corporations are able to push price increases at the same time they're making record amounts of money is because they have such dominant positions in the market. They can do it. They don't have to pay a price. And the second thing the administration ought to consider, in my view, is a windfall profits tax. Even the conservative government in Britain just passed that, and on the oil companies. The oil companies are raking in record profits, and yet they are increasing their prices at the pump. That's, to me, that just makes no sense.
It's interesting that you say that because last week I spoke to Democratic strategist James Carville, who you know very well, about these sky-high energy prices, and here's what he proposed. Let's listen.
If anybody doesn't think that these oil companies are manipulating these prices to their advantage, and I have no idea what to tell you because you're strictly naive. And the British Parliament, the Tories passed this, the Democrats in the House passed this, tax those windfall profits and return that money to consumers.
What do you think about that, Mr. Secretary? I mean, should the administration be thinking about a tax rebate going to the American people out there? Because we've seen that in previous administrations. Republican administrations have sent out rebate checks. Might that help, ease this pinch that folks are feeling right now?
It definitely could help, Jim, because, again, most people, the biggest pinch for most people is energy prices. And the biggest thing they see is those price rises at the pump. And so a windfall profits tax that were rebated to consumers would be enormously helpful. Another option is you take the revenue from a windfall profits tax, it goes to the Treasury, and the Treasury reduces or eliminates the federal gas tax, at least temporarily, and helps the states eliminate state gas taxes, again, temporarily. There are a lot of things that can be done, but I think the windfall profits is absolutely critical. It also signals to the oil companies that they just can't keep on raising their prices to consumers without any kind of penalty.
And I'm going to talk about another Clinton administration veteran, Larry Summers, who served as the Treasury Secretary under President Clinton, was on CNN this morning advocating for lifting tariffs on China in an effort to bring down prices. What do you think of that?
Well, that might be a temporary help. But again, China is not really responsible for the inflation. Lowering tariffs on goods coming from China could add to supply, but it's not going to really be terribly helpful at this time, because part of the problem with regard to China has to do with lockdowns in Shanghai and elsewhere, given the enormous problems that China is now having with a new wave of COVID. And on top of that, you've also got ocean shipping. The ocean shippers are, again, another monopolist, set of monopolies. Those ocean shippers are not going to be reducing their prices anytime soon. And that's going to hobble any help we get from lowering tariffs on China. So I think the big issue here, and the most important to consider, is a windfall profits tax and antitrust enforcement here in the United States.